Welcome to the Dad Central Show, hosted by Ed Gow Jr. and Drew Solon. We know dads want to see their kids succeed, but they don't always know how to get there. This show gives dads the tools they need to raise confident and successful kids.
What is up, everybody? Ed Gow Jr. here from Dad Central with Mr.
Drew Solon from Dad Central.
I was wondering, is he gonna
Did I get it right today?
Yes, you got. I think that is your name today. I think that's your name every day. All right, you can work with.
It is my name every day. Some days I forget. That's just the challenge of being a dad, and having 4 kids and a 5th on the way, and lots to do. But that happens.
Good stuff. How's Drew doing?
I think normally I've been listening to the show back and I would just say not much is happening, but that's not true. There's a lot happening. And so I'm enjoying the process of, juggling a lot of different things going on and, being productive, which I know that's a big thing for you.
Yeah, positive productive. I don't like being busy. I like to be positive productive. That's the whole thing for me. Let's be positive productive with Dove Men Plus Care. The Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there is a positive impact. We fully agree with that, and we stamp that big time. We have another new friend coming on the Dad Central Show, and I'm going to let Drew do the honors.
Well, I talked about productivity. In getting to know our guest, Young Han, I've learned that he's super productive. And so it'll be interesting to have this conversation because Young Han, he hosts the Girl Dad Show where he tackles his personal goal of becoming the best parent he can be over a series of diverse interviews with fellow working parents. And so the Girl Dad Show, from my perspective, it says it's a must listen for young professionals attempting to plan out their futures, current working parents looking for new perspectives, and everyone in between. And in the conversations we'd had with Young, I've actually learned a ton. And he's got I think so much value to offer. So I'm excited to have him on the show and talk about being a dad and being productive.
Well, let's make excitement a reality. Here he is.
Young, welcome to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the introduction and the welcome.
Great. What's been going on in your world?
Oh, just parenting and dad lifing and trying to keep it all together. I did have a really fun dad life experience the other day. I just took the kids to a ropes course, and my second kid is just like same parents, same family, but she's just so timid and so nervous, and she broke down crying, and we were able to kind of coach her and kind of coax her into trying the ropes course, and ultimately she was able to do it. And it's just so wild to think about how different the kids are. Because this one, I'm really proud of her, and I'm really excited that she was able to overcome her fear and her her tears and fear. And on the other end of the ropes course, my oldest daughter is just flying through it. I'm like, stop hurting other kids, knocking these other kids over. And I'm like, hey, come back and slow down. And but yeah, so very, very, very fun dad moment just a couple days ago.
Let's go. Drew, start it off. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could easily pick up and learn a little bit more from that, but it just goes to show you that you gotta adapt. You gotta figure things out sometimes as a dad, and also getting accustomed to different, as you said, same family but such different personalities. So, anyways, we'll get into that a little bit more. But Young, it's great to have you on the show. I really enjoyed our conversations prior to this. But why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about kind of where it all started for Young? We like to get a little bit of that backstory of kind of what life was like for you growing up.
Yeah. Grew up in the Bay Area, so San Francisco Bay Area, and I was born in Oakland and lived all around the Bay Area my entire life. My dad was a entrepreneur, I guess you would say. He owned a small little liquor store in Oakland when he first immigrated over here. And so pretty typical, Asian immigrant story, doing the liquor store thing, or I think a lot of Asians did liquor stores or dry cleaners. And from there, he moved us around quite a bit and got to, see most of the Bay Area through that process. And as he kind of established his career and his businesses, I was able to learn a lot from just watching him. And And then obviously Silicon Valley really started, ripping a huge tear into the Bay Area. And, the bohemian city of the country kind of turned into the tech central capital of the country. And got to see that transition and got to be a part of that. And then most recently, over the last 3 years, I made the big move out of California to Austin, Texas. So now I live in Texas as a California transplant, which is really funny to say because there's so many Californians here. It's like not even funny. But there's a lot of us. I call it the Great Migration. I think like 3 years ago, there's like a ton of these Californians that have moved here. And so I was part of that Great Migration.
Why move from California to Texas?
I got older and I started looking at my life, and I just like cared about different things, and I started to get really quite frankly depressed. I was actually getting pretty badly depressed, and I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't know why, because I was so happy. I was a new dad and I loved having kids. I loved being a dad. It was like so much fun, but I just couldn't fight this like mental angst that I had, and it was starting to kind of like creep into depression that I couldn't like combat no matter what I did. And I finally just like talked to my wife and took time off, and I just didn't work, and it took 2 months and just really did a lot of thinking and reading and talking to people, and started to realize that I kind of like changed. The who I was in my 20s and 30s wasn't who I was in my 40s, and then I think really what the impetus was the kids. Just like having kids really changed the value prop of what I wanted in life. I think, before kids, it was like, what logo company did I work at? What was my title? What was my pay? What was, all these different things that I just constituted success as. It just like kind of creeped really down on my priority list. And I didn't realize it until I actually sat down and did the deep work to actually figure out myself. And once I realized like none of those things mattered, and what I really wanted was more time with my kids and time with my kids doing like outdoor things and like exploring things, I realized that I needed to change my lifestyle. And so started thinking about ways that I could, increase the quality of life. And not to say that there's not quality of life there, but the quality of life that I wanted, and the quality of life that I wanted had more time and more outdoorsy things. And so we made the decision to move. And so that's what brought us to Texas. And so it was really fun. I mean, it's exactly what I wanted. And so I'm super happy here. Like the first month, my kids, were like scared of the bugs because they lived in the city, so everything's like super clean and nice. And, fast forward, even 2 months after we moved here, they're like running outside with baskets to grab frogs and crickets. And like, it's just, it's not for everybody, but for me, that's what I wanted. And I just wanted that world where I could just, let the kids be kids and not worry about, what next innovation and technology is going to change the world, and have to worry about competing with just the sheer velocity of like intelligence and ephemeral thinking of like, it's not a bad thing. I mean, Silicon Valley is amazing. I mean, if you want to hang out with really smart people, I highly recommend you move and live there. I mean, everyone is so smart and really, really inventive and creative, but I just wanted a slower life. And I wanted my kids to be able to be kids the way I grew up.
Yeah. Well, I think that, there's a lot in that story and just what you shared there. A couple of things that jump out to me, and then one area that I'm curious, and maybe we can explore it a little bit further. So, the shift in what mattered to you was really, kind of what I heard. And part of that came with having children, becoming a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, this is a big transition point for men. When they become a father, shifts do happen, right?
Yeah.
You start to look at life differently. What mattered to you, and you said what mattered to me in my 20s and 30s, it didn't really matter to me anymore. But you actually also took the time, right? You recognized that things weren't going the way you wanted. You talk about like, possibly shifting into a depression, but recognize, okay, well, I need to do something different, right? You didn't just keep trying to go the same path. You did something different about that. And part of that was doing the work, like evaluating, taking time off and thinking. And so I think that's an important step that not many people do, because they're just like, well, I can't, or I got to keep going, or they're afraid. Well, no, like, it's too scary to consider the alternative. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And so I guess my curiosity is, when you spent that time, reflecting, trying to figure things out, like, was there a moment, or was there something that gave you that aha? Oh, what? This is really what's different from me. This is what matters to me more. Was there something that either contributed to that, or came up for you that created one of those aha moments?
There was a bunch. There was a lot of them. I mean, this wasn't like a simple journey, right? It was pretty dense, and it was riddled with a lot of variables. But I could tell you a couple of them that are easier to share in story in a show like this as well too. One of them is just simply financial, right? Like when you look at like financial planning and you think about like how you save for retirement and how our ecosystem is set up, it's like you work and you put aside a certain amount of money, and then that money will hopefully compound, and banks won't fail, and but
Right.
like hopefully everything goes well, which it doesn't in our lifetime. For some reason, our generation has seen 3 of these really weird catalytic downfalls, which you're never supposed to see, by the way. But let's just pretend those things don't happen, and you put this money aside, and then it compounds, and then you have enough, when you're 60, 65 to, retire, and then live off of Social Security and your retirement, at a reasonable rate, and then you die, right? And that's kind of like the American middle class plan, right? That's how you live your life. And I was doing this modeling, and I just like the amount of money that you'd have to put away, to have a moderate amount of money after you retire, and then God forbid you live past 90, like don't live past 90 because there's no money. Like I'm just like, this can't be the way that everyone lives. And, you start asking everyone, like, that's just how it is. And I'm like, what? So you're telling me like, I have to live a really crappy life? And I'm like, no, you just have to save money. I know, but the amount of money I have to save every month to live a really crappy life in my retirement, it seems like a crappy life. It's like I'm going to live a crappy life now to live a crappy life later, so that I don't live past 90, and then that's what everyone does. And like, I don't know. And that was a really big epiphany for me, that I'm like, one, I don't want to subscribe to that reality, and so I wanted to figure out a way to change that, because that's not what I want for my kids, and that's not what I want to do. It has everything. It just was against everything I wanted for my family and my kids. I wanted to be able to like, spend time with them and be part of their lives and their formative years in a really meaningful way. And it just wasn't what I wanted. And then I'm thinking about them growing up, and then them having to do the same thing. Like, it just didn't seem like a gift. It seemed really bad. And so I don't know, there was a really big epiphany for me, like having to go through these like planning stages, and like financial planning, and figuring out what the life that I wanted was. And so that was a really big variable for me. The second thing that really helped me understand it was the talking to a bunch of mentors and talking about stages in life. And they're saying that, like, in the first 10 or 15 years, even up to the 15th year, kids are absolutely in love with their parents. They just like, they like want to do everything the parent does. They want to be around you. They think you're super cool. You're amazing. Right. And then naturally, by no coercion or nurturing or anything, right, by nature, just by sheer nature, they will start to develop their own self identity and their own adulthood, and start figuring themselves out, and want to naturally start separating from you to really like step out in the world as their own person. And then I just said, like, why am I fighting nature? I got to figure out a way to spend more time with them when they want to be with me, because they're naturally going to want, and I should want them to, go away and spend more time as an adult on their own. And so how can I also figure out a way to switch my timeline around really, really abruptly, so that I can lower my cost of living, and I could spend more time with them when they want to be with me. And then I can go back to working and making money when they naturally want to start evolving and figuring out their independence. So that was another really big variable. And then there's a ton of these things that I've thought through, but those are the really 2 big ones that I can share very quickly and easily, that I think people will understand very quickly.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I mean, in particular, I really love how intentional and thoughtful you were, but those priorities is really what it jumped out. Like, here's what I wanted. I wanted the time with my children, and I wanted the financial, choices to be able to live the lifestyle that matters more to us and for our family. I was curious, Ed, you hop in after this. I was curious. It sounds like you've got a real strong motivation to like be with your kids and to be a dad, and to connect and engage with them when it matters, when they want to be with you. I'm just curious, like, where does that come from?
I think my parents are very, very kind and nurturing. My mom especially was very kind and nurturing. My dad not so much. He was a pretty tough guy. But I don't know. I'd say my family is very loving and kind. Generally speaking, all the siblings get along really well, and I have a really big family, and I think that there's a lot of that. I don't know how much of it is nature and nurture, but all I know is that the moment I saw Lily, like I just like everything about me changed. And so I want to say that my family helped me, my friends helped me, my ecosystem helped me like create this like desire, and I'm sure it had an impact in it. But I think more than anything, it was just that moment that I met my child. I'm like, I don't know. Everyone says it. It's so cliche, but it's just like you don't realize how much you can love something until you have a kid, and then you're like, wow. Like I loved my dogs. I was like a total like paw parent, right? Parent, whatever they call it. And like I would literally like do everything for my dogs. I mean, they would be pampered, and I mean, and the moment Lily came out, I mean, they were immediately just like second class citizens. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like I just like fell in love with this kid, like just unbelievably deep level of like responsibility, love, and just passion to just that I wanted to gift to her. And then what's really wild is, you just don't think that you could possibly love anything so much, and then you have a second kid, and like it just grows, it just doubles. And I don't know. I think it's a little bit anomalous for men to have this kind of sentiment and feeling. I don't think that it's as normal for guys to be like this, but I don't really care anymore. I just like stopped caring about what people think about me a couple of years ago, and it's been the best thing I've ever done. It's just like I do me, and I just live my life, and I don't worry about what other people think, and I love it. I don't really, I don't really, I don't really think it's normal, but it's not, it's normal to me, and so I'm not really sure how to answer that other than that I knew like a lightning bolt when Lily was born that I would do a lot of things to make sure she was happy.
Nice.
Yeah, Ed, I just want to comment on that. I think it is actually more normal than you might realize, and I also think it's men don't particularly understand this, but so women, their bodies change in the process of growing the baby. There's hormones, there's all that other stuff, and then all of a sudden, when the baby comes out, they get this flood of oxytocin, that love hormone. That actually happens for dads too. Dad's physiology actually changes when the baby's born, and so what you're talking about is part physiology as well as kind of just
cool.
that mentality. So there's a physiological aspect to the shift that you've experienced.
I didn't know that,
and the research just validates that. So dads, it's normal.
Absolutely. I didn't know that. So I didn't know that we had a physiological change.
We do. Our hormones change when we become a dad.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So all that stuff is natural, all part of, we could say, biology or physiology, and but it makes sense, right? Because your importance of preserving life and perpetuating life has a biological function, and that's why it's there. It's inherent. It's for men. It happens, and it's
good
real.
to know. Good to know.
Ed.
Yeah, number of conversation pieces I have. First off, I want to know, and you mentioned you come from a large family. What has your parents' parenting had impact-wise on your fatherhood journey?
Yeah, it's I think it's like I see it as an evolution. I think that it's made a really big impact on me in that I see that my dad has improved his parenting skills from his dad. And I think that I have now taken his parenting and improved my parenting based on what I think that he's evolved to. And I think it's a constant evolution, right? And so I think about it that way. And then I think it's really interesting because my dad is very, very strict and stern. He's a man of little words and very little emotions. And my mom is the opposite. You know, she's very emotional, very touchy feely, very loving, and very supportive. And I think the combination of those two things was also really good to understand, you know, as a kid, and then growing up understanding how to use those two things as tools, right? Like, because they have different impacts, you know, and different purposes. But I will say though that I'm trying really hard to lean away from the silent dad type, because I don't think that there was really a great benefit to that. And I look at my dad and my relationship now, and I know he wants to hang out with me. I know he wants to bond, and he just struggles. He's just like so awkward, and he just like can't let go of the alpha, like, you know, big dog energy, you know, like he just doesn't know how to just be a friend, and he's never been able to make that evolution. And so I'm trying really hard now to build those relationships with him, like through, like, I'm trying to learn how to golf this year, right? So I can like make it easier for him to do things that he's comfortable in, so he doesn't have to awkwardly like strike up conversation with me, because I know he wants to. It's just awkward for him. So giving him the vehicles to, you know, converse about golf, because I know he likes to golf, and so that'll be easier for him to hang out and spend time. And so that's like a goal of mine this year. But my focus with my parenting is to just create an environment where, you know, I can teach them the things that I think are important, like core values and, you know, the power of like relationships and things that I think are going to help them be happy and successful in whatever they choose to do. But mostly just making sure they know that they can talk to me. And I'm really heavily focused on being their friend, which is not always good. I think it'll be better later on when you're actually supposed to be their friend. You're supposed to make that migration, you know, from parenting to their friend. But right now, my wife always jokes that, like, you know, she has 3 kids because, you know, I just like play, you know, we just play super hard, you know.
Well, I'm going to pop in here and you can share this with your wife. That play, based on research, is actually how dads have natural strengths at building attachment with children.
Yeah.
And that actually helps your child feel more secure in themselves, and being able to go out and explore the world and actually take risks. Yes, there's, you know, the normally people think of as attachment with the maternal paradigm of like caring and connection and comfort. But when you play, you're building bonds with your kids in a way that is natural for dads and their strengths. So you can let your wife know, I'm not just playing, I'm building bonds and creating attachment, which is going to help our daughters be more secure in the world.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I'll let her know that. She's not going to listen to you, but I appreciate it.
It's not me. It's research.
It's research. Yeah, exactly.
That's what the researchers say. They,
well, the
famous,
really,
they. That's what they say.
Information's going to get the most heat.
Yeah, I do some pretty risky things with them, though. I mean, it's pretty bad. But like I have like a one wheel. It's like an electric skateboard.
Yeah.
I'll like stick them on there, and we'll like rip around like 20 miles per hour. You know, it's like super fun for me, and I'm you know, very open to taking risks and trying things, right? Because I feel like, you know, if I fall, I'll break my arm before I let them get hurt, right? And so I just feel like it's worth it. But they're a little bit more timid than me, so I definitely push the play a little bit more aggressively than they're used to. But yeah.
I want to jump in here about that, because that's some of the things that we share with dads, that how do you balance getting them to be risk takers? And it sounds, now correct me if I'm wrong, your wife doesn't like that risk taking element.
There's very few times where I'll supersede my wife. She's predominantly the rule maker and the decision maker for the family. I mean, she sets the habits, she sets the rules, and I mean, everyone knows that, you know, in the house that mom's the boss. Like they'll literally tell me, they'll be like, you know, like, it's just one of those things, right? And I typically follow her guidance, because she's the anchor. She definitely knows what's best for all of us. But there are moments, and I distinctly remember moments where I'll actually tell her, or I'll ask her, I'll be like, hey, can I just push her through this? Because it's really important that she learns this, and I kind of force her to do it. And we'll give each other the eye. Like one distinct example, and my kids are young, so these are very like benign activities that I'm going to share with you. They're not like critical things, but they're meaningful.
Well,
to
just
me.
for context, how old are your daughters?
4 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're not really like, riveting like life experiences, but to me, they're like these moments in time where I'm able to kind of share them risk taking. So they're riding their scooter. Lily is riding her scooter, and she is going, she used to be, in the Bay Area, it was pretty flat. And so it was like very easy to control the speed, and here in where we live in the country, it's like there's hills. And they're not like, there's a lot of land here. So it's not like just like, oh, a little hill. And it's like, no, it's like hills and hills and hills and like ups and downs. And she kept falling, and she bailed really hard because it went too fast, and she didn't know how to stop it fast enough. And she ate it really hard. And she got really scared, and she didn't want to go down anymore. And I basically just kind of forced her to do it. I said, hey, like, you can keep crying about it, and let's cry, and tell me how much you want to cry for, but we're going to cry, and then we'll set a timer. Let's cry for 3 minutes. I'll cry with you. Let's cry together. We're going to cry for 3 minutes, and then we're going to be done crying, and we're going to try again. Because the reality is, you're not going to not scooter for the rest of your life because we live in a hilly place. You're going to have to learn how to do this. So let's just cry it out. And so we spent 3 minutes, and we timed it, and we cried. We just cried, and we were miserable, and we were in pain, and we just held each other and cried. And then we shook it off, and we went back at it. And I said, this time, try it with brakes. I'm going to hold you, and we're going to do this, and we're going to learn how to brake down the hill. And long story short, now she's not afraid of going down these things, right? But we had to force her through that, even though she didn't want to do it. She was so scared, so nervous, and so scared. And I think that's like one instance where I feel like I taught her how to like, compartmentalize the fear, and like cry it out, but time box it, and then move on. I don't know what I'm doing.
You know what? So quite a few good things in that, but I want to, because I think it's very important that when our kids are upset, we acknowledge they're upset. And you did. Yeah, you're crying, but you're there with her. You didn't leave her alone. You also didn't chastise her. Those are all powerful things. And then you encourage her and say, okay, let's keep trying. Right? Let's try again. You get up and do it. So a lot of really great things there. But I want to go back to, it sounded when you were talking about you and your wife, you've got a great partnership, and that you both have, areas of strengths, but you also support each other really well. And so could you maybe talk briefly about, what is the key from your perspective to working really well as a parenting team to support each other and to raise a strong, healthy family?
I think that my wife is the best partner ever for me, because she has the opposite of everything that I am. Like, she is, she thinks that it's actually a con. She's like, I wish we actually liked something in common, because we like absolutely have nothing in common. Right. Like, but I think that that's what makes us so great, is that, I can trust her to be, diligent about like, the rituals and the habits, and like making sure that she's monitoring their eating habits and health. And I just I'm not good at that stuff. I'm like, my kid looks at me and she's like, cookies for breakfast. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's do it. I love it. I like cookies. I'm hungry. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'm just more freewheeling, and it's not the best, environment to raise a kid in. And so I think the combination of those two things is great, right? Like having one parent that is just like more risk taking and more aggressive and just kind of out there, and then one parent that's like creating the semblance of structure and safety and habits, right? And then also teaching them about like, inputs on health and like, taking care of your body and all those things. So I love the partnership that we have. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, the only reason why we're able to like do the things that we're trying to do right now, our new goals in life, which is create financial freedom, and create more time and time with our kids, and then be able to provide our kids a ton of opportunities to try new things. These things all cost money. And the reason why we're able to do that is because we have such a good partnership. It would not be possible if we were, not in sync and different. Because she loves what she loves and I love what I love, it allows me to even be a better businessman, and it allows her to be even a better parent. And by combination, now she's a better businesswoman, and by combination, I'm a better parent. And I think that's how I see my relationship with my wife. And we're I feel like it works because we're so different. And she's an amazing mom. She's an amazing mom. Yeah, she's an amazing mom and an amazing wife. And she's really got a good hand on like the things that she wants to do and how she wants to do it, and she's very attentive. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I think it's super important. That's kind of how I feel about my partnership with my wife.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. It's being able to hear and understand some of the, I think, principles that are in that. For me, it sounded like, the ability to cooperate, recognizing that each has their own strengths, and that's okay. It doesn't take away from any of your, the fact that your wife is good at what she's good at doesn't take away from what you're good at, and vice versa. And not wanting, because you hear a lot, you should never really be competing. But sometimes I think that happens in relationships where people start to compete with one another as parents, or compete with one another as, breadwinners, or compete with one another in terms of just, as opposed to cooperating. And so I think I heard you describe a very cooperative, mutually respectful, and kind of, just supportive relationship that creates a really great atmosphere for each of you and for your children. I think that's really important. That shows in how you communicate about your wife, your partner, your wife. So,
well, I'm glad you hear you say that, and I can't wait for my wife to listen to this, because that's going to get me a lot of brownie points.
You're thinking exactly what I think. That now the research is in the garbage. Now the research comments is in garbage. You're the man. You're the man now with that.
That's right. Well, Young, I mean, I think that there's a couple other things I would have loved to chat with you about, but I know for time today, we've got to cut it off here. But I just want to say thanks so much for being on our show, for sharing a little bit of your story. A lot of great principles, just from what you've shared. And but I think people probably want to hear more. So if they do, where can they learn more about you?
So thegirldadshow.com. So thank you for linking that. It's just thegirldadshow.com. And that's my website for my podcast. And my show is a mixture of my professional parenting journey, mixed in with interviews with other builders, executives, and societally successful people. Like, I've interviewed politicians and chief of polices and stuff as well too, but people in leadership roles. And I just interview them on how they navigate a successful career while navigating parenting. And that's a really great place for you to understand my professional journey and kind of how I'm thinking about it. And then also the monologues are a really great place to just check in on how I'm thinking about myself and my journey. Because I literally I just riff on what I'm thinking about that week, and I just talk about businesses that I'm building and investments that I'm making, and I just break down everything literally by numbers. I'm very transparent about how much money I make and all the things that I do. And so if you're curious about how I'm building financial freedom for myself, that's a really great place to tune in and check it out.
It's great.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much, Ed.
Yeah. We'll say thank you so much for the limited time, but the valuable time that you provided us and our family. And just want to say, as always, anything we can do to help your journey, please feel free to reach out. And as I always say to our friends that come on, remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy.
Love it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks again. Take care. All right, Drew.
Oh, I get the big screen.
There we go. And takeaways.
Takeaways. Well, I love how intentional Young is. And I think we didn't you heard it when he talked about just his decision making when it was time to change and move from California to Texas, and getting focused on what mattered to him. And I think it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of, we mentioned risk taking just in play with kids, but it takes a lot of risk taking as an adult to step into something that is something you're really passionate about. And so, if nothing else, I think that's a great takeaway for anyone at any point. But if you're dad and you're finding yourself not happy, you're finding yourself struggling, maybe take some time, figure out what really matters to you, and then take the steps necessary to get there.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that. I love the intentionality on reflection, and I'm a firm believer if dads don't spend time investing themselves or doing that, yes, our kids need the time out, but sometimes, Dad, you need the time out to just do a reflection. And, sometimes you have to make a U-turn. And sometimes you need to take that, whether it's via meditation, whether it's reaching out to someone and just talking to another dad. We always believe in community here. Do something. If something isn't right, remember, it's not only impacting you as a dad, but it's also impacting your family.
Well said.
So it's very, very important that you invest in being the best you. The better you are to yourself, the better you're going to be for yourself, but also for your family, not only today, but future generations. So as we close on that, we always say the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. And always, we like to say too, reach out to us. Send us an email. Give us your thoughts, guest suggestions, feedback, podcast@dadcentral.ca. Website, well, let me do podcast first. We also want you to listen to this podcast. Share it out. Provide feedback. Share it out especially. Like it. Share it with friends. Share it with family. Share it with other dads. Share it with people who love dads. And then finally, we have a pile of free resources on our website, dadcentral.ca. So as always, remember to give yourself grace. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and we will see you on the fatherhood journey. Be well.